Good evening, everybody. Gonna do a little bit of late night streaming. Normally I come on a bit earlier, but I decided tonight, even if I was gonna make it late, I was gonna do it nonetheless. Um, April is Autism Acceptance Month. We are on day 7 of our month-long series of all things autism. Tonight I'm going to chat a little bit about autism when it comes to dance, music, and the arts. And I want to share a couple of different stories and experiences. But before I get to that, I want to first chat a little bit about some things that are upcoming. If you missed today's LinkedIn audio, you missed out. We talked about real estate and the probate process. And next week, we will be talking about guardianship, how you may be at risk. And guardianship is a really good topic for the autism community because many times families do need to go through the guardianship process as their children become adults. So that is something that I hope that you're able to join us for. This Saturday, April the 9th, my family and I will be participating in the South Florida Autism Charter School 10th annual walk. This is all in support of autism families here in South Florida. The walk will take place at the South Florida Autism Charter School campus here in Hialeah. If you're interested in participating and you want to bring your family out, please don't hesitate to send me a message and I'll send you the details. But that is coming up this weekend. And I will definitely do a little bit of live streaming from the walk. And I always want to let you know that if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things that you want to hear more about during this 30-day series of all things autism, please don't hesitate to send me an email at Sandy, the letter B, the word law, 305 at gmail.com. So I am broadcasting live tonight from my YouTube channel, Sandy, the letter B, the word law. Also broadcasting on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you are watching, please don't hesitate to let me know that you're here. Drop a comment. Let me know where you're viewing from, what city or state. And also, if you are watching the replay, please don't hesitate to drop a message. So let's go ahead and get started. We're talking about autism, dance, music, and the arts. This is something that is extremely important to me as an auntie to a teenager who is autistic. My nephew is non-speaking. Yesterday, we talked about the difference between nonverbal and non-speaking. My nephew is non-speaking, which basically means he can communicate. He uses his device to communicate. He uses gestures, a little bit of sign language, and of course, the usual pointing, pulling, and everything in between. But the music, the dance, the arts has been a really, really helpful piece for my nephew. He loves music, and I really mean love. And so you can get him to engage in a lot of different ways by utilizing music. And I think a while back, I posted a video of my nephew basically humming the sounds to this song called Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. So he plays music a lot in his head, it seems, because he is constantly humming some kind of tune. And so I can see a lot of value in utilizing music with children or adults who are autistic because the repetition is something that is very commonplace. There are a lot of behaviors that my nephew and many children who are autistic will engage in. And repetition is often helpful because it's something that kind of fits in line with some of their behaviors. Also, in looking at things like dance and the arts, many of the behaviors in performing in dance, in playing music, in doing certain types of arts, whether it be, painting, whether it be doing something with the hands like sculpture, a lot of the behaviors are repetitive and it helps. It sometimes can be soothing to many children who are autistic. And I'm always looking for different programs and activities to get my nephew engaged in, because many children benefit from the arts in so many different ways. It helps them with their motor skills. It helps them with being able to make connections. Because as we discussed early on in this series, autism is an intellectual disability. The brain is wired differently. Children who are autistic or adults who are autistic will often have certain challenges socially, behaviorally, and with their communication. And so utilizing the music, the dance, the arts can often stimulate certain types of behaviors from children and adults who are autistic that really, really helps them engage in ways that they may not normally do so because of some of the behaviors that they experience. Now, in all of our conversations about autism, we always want to stress that autism is different. It's not less. It's a condition that requires additional support and assistance from family members, loved ones, therapists, treatments. But it's not something that has a cure. It's not a disease. It's not something that you can give some medication and it will go away. And even with all the therapy in the world, what you're not doing is eliminating the autism. You don't eliminate autism. Autism is a part of someone. Now, what you do is you work with the individual with their skills and abilities and try to sharpen up certain behaviors so that they are able to engage with the rest of the world as best that they can, right? So we're not trying to completely change or curb behaviors to the point where we're getting a whole new person. We are trying to highlight certain attributes of that person to help them engage with the world around them. So as we've talked in the last few days, my nephew is non-speaking. Many children on the autism spectrum are non-speaking. Does that mean that we have to force them to try to say words? Absolutely not. Does that mean that we have to force them to use a certain type of device? Absolutely not. What it does mean is we have to be very patient. We have to be very accepting. We have to be very understanding. And many times we can utilize things like dance, music, and the arts to bring some of the talents out of our loved ones who are autistic. And so I wanted to frame tonight's conversation by talking about a couple of different examples. And what I'm going to do is share a story that I saw earlier today from an individual whose daughter is autistic. And this woman here is Evelyn. She has a daughter named Alize, and her daughter is extremely talented when it comes to the arts. And I was looking at something earlier on Facebook where it was an article. It says Exhibit for Autism Awareness features Haitian painter Alize Saint Louis. And it's interesting because sometimes we assume that a child who is autistic cannot do certain things. And I'll even say this. I remember when my nephew was originally diagnosed, the commentary from the doctors and the therapists was not positive. It was kind of like, you can pretty much expect that he's not going to be able to do anything, right? He's going to need support his whole life. Wow. That really doesn't help someone who is receiving an autism diagnosis for their loved one, right? There are so many things that children and adults who are autistic can accomplish with the proper support, assistance, resources, treatment, therapies. There's so many things that they can accomplish. And this is a wonderful example of this young lady and her talents and her mom being able to tap into that element and say, you know what, my daughter has a talent and I'm going to feed that talent. I'm going to make sure that she's able to maximize her experiences through that talent. So this is an article that says Haitian artist Alize Saint Louis was the special guest at an art exhibition held for Autism Awareness Month on Saturday. Saint Louis, who has autism, is the daughter of Evelyn Alexandre, a Haitian-born activist who founded a company called Autism 509. And we're actually going to be talking with her later on in the month. But Evelyn founded Autism 509, an organization which connects Haitian parents worldwide with resources. And she is just plain amazing. And I can go ahead and show you some of the artwork that Alize has been able to put together. I'm going to pull that up. But Alize, her daughter, is extremely talented, and there are so many different things that she's been able to accomplish with the support and continued embracing that she's received from her mom. This is an example of a piece of artwork that Alize created, and I'm going to maximize the screen so you can see here. So this is her Instagram page that has some of her artwork. This is called Sparkling Blue. Here's another beautiful piece that Alize was able to create. Beautiful. Look at this. Can you imagine the talent that goes into putting these pieces together, right? So it's just something that, you have to keep in mind when you think of a child who is autistic. Many times we don't think of the possibilities of their talents. We often just think of the disability. And that to me is just a really challenging place to be, for us to not be able to embrace the talents that exist when it comes to those who are autistic. Now, one of the things that I've always appreciated over the years is being able to experience different programs that my nephew has been able to participate in. And one of the organizations that I want to also talk about, and I'm going to be highlighting this organization during this month as well, is Arts for Autism. Now, Arts for Autism is an organization that I found quite a while back when my nephew first got his autism diagnosis. And Arts for Autism basically provides what's called spectrum dance therapy. And she works with music and dance to help autistic children and adults to basically kind of work through dance moves and processes and learn different skills all the while, as well as learning to socialize a bit. And so today, for example, was Autism Dance Day. There's a challenge on the Arts for Autism page on their Instagram. So it's arts_for_autism. And they basically did a dance challenge. And the beauty of this challenge is she's encouraging children and their parents or family members to really do this dance together, or at least to have the children perform this dance, after watching it. And my nephew definitely attempted to do his, so, but it was really interesting thinking about how this dance was going to come together, and putting all the pieces together, and watching different people submit their submissions on Instagram today. But Audrey, the founder of Arts for Autism, is amazing. We will be talking with her towards the end of the month. She does ABA therapy, so she's a BCBA, and we're going to talk about what that is and what that means when we speak with her later on this month. But just a beautiful spirit. She has an organization called Arts for Autism, and she focuses on supporting the autistic community through music and dance. And I'll even show you briefly, this is my nephew trying to do the little dance himself. Not really wanting to do anything today, but definitely showing you that he can at least try to participate, which is just a beautiful thing. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to also share today was when it comes to the arts and music and dance, there are so many different programs throughout many of our cities and counties, and it's just a matter of really doing a bit of digging and figuring out what is accessible in your area. And a few tips that I can give, Google, of course, is a great resource, but I've found on social media an ability to really find a lot of information, almost like a word of mouth, but of course, using social media. So, sometimes doing some digging through some different sections of, various social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, or even, LinkedIn and TikTok, you can do some searching and try to find some autism organizations. And many times you will find different dance, music, or art, or any kind of, creative programs that you can get your child involved with. Also, please note that sometimes in your city or county, you may have a division that handles disability services. So that's another thing that you can maybe Google in your area and try to make some calls or look online to see what types of programs. The other thing that I really enjoy about different services for autism is a lot of counties and cities are doing programs specific to autism when it comes to sports. My nephew has been involved with basketball, flag football, swimming, golf. Um, I'm trying to think if he did bowl. I don't think it was bowling. Um, just so many kickball, baseball, basketball. He's done pretty much every sport I can think of. I think the only one he hasn't done yet is tennis, and that's coming soon. Um, so there are a lot of different activities that you can get your child involved with. You can get your adult autistic family member involved in, and it will really be beneficial to them because having an outlet to express themselves beyond the typical pressures of everyday life will often give them a sense of more relaxation, less anxiety, right? Because oftentimes the world around autistic individuals is pushing for verbal communication, right? Pushing for eye contact, pushing for socialization. And many times, those who are autistic, there are certain things that really create more anxiety and stress and frustration for them. And so we have to understand that the behaviors that we see as foundational, as the norm, are just not the norm for everybody. And every child, every adult who is autistic is different. So I was having a chat with my good friend Tracy today, and we were talking about the differences between her cousin and my nephew in some of the behaviors that they will do. But one thing that I've noticed is when it comes to activities, my nephew's behaviors can be a bit curbed because he's so focused on what he's doing. I could probably show you some videos of him, I would say playing basketball. Um, but, it is just like there's so many different things that you can kind of tap into as long as you do your due diligence and search. Because trust me, there's a lot out here for those who are looking for it. And the children really benefit from that. It's really a helpful place to be. I'm going to try to see if I can pull up a video of my nephew playing basketball. Yeah, here it goes. So, my nephew enjoys playing basketball. It is something that I think gives him a sense of accomplishment. And so, we've had him in basketball for quite some time now. Here is the video of him, shooting around with his buddy. He participates in a program called Basketball Buddies. And this program basically allows him the opportunity to be teamed up with a high schooler who works with him on fundamental skills when it comes to playing the sport of basketball. So they do a lot of drilling type stuff. And it seems that he gets really engaged in that. Like he seems really connected because, again, routine behaviors, repetition is helpful. He feels, you'll notice sometimes that he seems to feel a sense of accomplishment as he is making certain shots, or even the fact that he's able to do this activity and gets some reinforcement from his buddy and from us. And it's just a really great thing to see. And so I really love to find ways to get him engaged in different sports activities where he can really connect with people. And sometimes he does actually engage with others in the process. So that is a really wonderful thing. Look at his little self. All right. So in talking about Autism Acceptance Month and the role of things like dance, music, and the arts, I really want to stress how important it is to recognize that not every child or adult will be able to do everything. There are going to be strengths, there are going to be areas that are not really going to work for them. And it is up to you as the family member, the parent, the therapist, the aide, to be able to recognize, levels of involvement and levels of frustration, levels of anxiety and levels of, I really don't want to do that, right? Not forcing certain things upon them, but giving them an opportunity to be able to be willing participants in a process. Now, we're at about the 22-minute mark. What I'd like to do at this point is talk a little bit about some of the actually autistic conversations that are happening on social media. But before I do that, again, I want to stress that, when it comes to autism and supporting the needs of those that are autistic, whether it be, during dance, music, different types of arts, sports, any kind of activities to keep engagement, outdoor life. All of these things are beneficial because they provide a foundation of just engagement outside of behaviors. Many times I will hear parents and family members describe an autistic child or adult's behaviors as they're in their own little world. Well, you know what? Art, dance, music, the arts, sports, you know what that does for a child who tends to be in their own little world? It brings them a bit out of that little world, and it allows them to kind of look around and engage with the world around them. And that's just such a supportive thing, right? That is the true essence of being able to be engaged in something that takes you away from kind of, your everyday activity. So I really love that. And I think it's a great way for us to support our loved ones who are actually autistic. Now, before I go to some actually autistic voices, again, I want to remind you this Saturday, April the 9th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Hialeah, South Florida Autism Charter School campus. They're doing their 10th annual Autism Walk. There are going to be tons of activities on that day, stuff for the whole family, food and vendors. Please consider participating in this event. It is a huge fundraiser type event, similar to their gala that they have later on in the year. All of the proceeds that are raised pretty much go directly to service, because they really, really look to bring in a lot of resources and funds to support the different programs and facilities that they need for their all autism services. Okay, so thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'm going to go now to a couple of actually autistic voices, because I did commit myself to saying this month we are going to share some perspectives of those who are actually autistic, in addition to sharing perspectives like mine as a family member, a loved one of someone who is actually autistic. So as I said, I look at a lot of different hashtags when I go through Instagram, and Instagram is the hub to me of actually autistic voices. So this one is Black Autism Awareness. It's a hashtag that says Black Autism Awareness. I need to be following this one so I can go back. I like this post. I've seen it quite a few times. A special needs parent fell in a hole. The doctor says, "Can you keep a diary of your experience in the hole?" The local authorities say, "Sorry, we don't have enough money for a ladder." The charity says, "Here's a form, fill it out to get on a waiting list for a ladder." A family member says, "What hole?" Another special needs parent comes along and says, "I'm here. I'm on my way down. I've been there before. I know how to get out, and I won't let you do it alone." This is a really, really lovely message, because it's just so true. Oftentimes you go to the medical professionals and they're just, asking you to do all this documentation. Local authorities are always saying there's not enough. Charities always want you to do stuff. And I get it. It makes sense. Family members, sometimes they're not as supportive as we would want them to be. But, as we discussed a few times over this last few days, sometimes it's lack of understanding, lack of awareness, lack of connection with your autistic loved one. So that kind of creates a little bit of an issue. But special needs parents have a real special bond, because For example, they're not in high numbers, right? So we don't expect like most parents to be special needs parents. And even when we look at numbers, most parents are not special needs parents. But 1 in 44 children in the United States has been diagnosed with autism. That number is pretty big. So it's important for us to know that we are not alone as individuals who have autistic loved ones. Parents have to know that they have support. Family members have to be able to step up and support. And the community at large. When we talk about autism awareness and shifting from awareness to more understanding and acceptance, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the other aspects of the community, not just the special needs parents coming together, but other aspects of the community coming together and show some understanding. I wanted to talk a little bit about therapy too. Many children require occupational therapy and speech therapy because there are many challenges that autistic children and adults face. As an example, my nephew has certain difficulty with using his hands to do certain basic things, right? Sometimes holding a pencil or a pen. The way that he holds the pencil or pen sometimes makes it challenging for him to write his, letters. Sometimes it's trying to determine whether or not he is able to use his voice, able to use words, or whether or not there is some delay, some issue that is creating a problem with him being able to put sounds out there into words. So many children do benefit from having occupational therapy, speech therapy, other types of therapies to support their development of motor skills and ability to be verbal. So that's something to really keep in mind. Let's look at some numbers here. This is a parent perspective. My son is non-speaking and 15 years young, diagnosed at 17 months, held 3 words in his lifetime, stopped speaking those 3 words at age 3. He has undergone 43 speech evaluations in 13 years. That's a lot. He has only had 6 speech therapists in 13 years. He has never been in speech therapy longer than 7 months. He averages 4 months. He received an AAC device 2 times through a grant program. The AAC device is a device that has like a bunch of different picture images, and the child is able to use those to communicate basically. He was denied being taught how to use this device 8 times by 2 of the 6 speech therapists he had over a 13-year span. I gave those devices away to 2 families. I started teaching my son to use a communication app at the age of 9 by myself because not one therapist felt he was cognizant enough to use one all those years ago. Wow. So again, we talk about acceptance and understanding and appreciation for those who are autistic. That's at all levels. We even find sometimes in the healthcare industry, in the therapy industry, that you have individuals doing these jobs and it's not even keeled. They're not providing equal services to all who are in the community, and that can be very, very problematic. There are so many things that we see in this autism community that I swear it really brings folks together. Autism doesn't need to be cured, but ignorance does. I wholeheartedly co-sign that message. Wholeheartedly. I love these little things here. In this house, we do autism. We see different abilities, not disabilities. We do understanding. We do compassion. We do routines. We STEM. We celebrate small victories. We do loud, really, really well. We do late nights. We do worry and frustration. But most of all, we love each other. And I think that's a great place for us to end this conversation. I actually want to make this a little bit bigger so that you can see that. But this to me is a perfect example of what the autism experience dictates. And at its core, love has to supersede all. And with love comes acceptance. And with love comes appreciation for the differences. So again, different, not less. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another All Things Autism conversation. If you're catching the replay, please put hashtag replay in the comments. If you're still watching with me, please let me know where you're watching from. I definitely appreciate your support throughout this All Things Autism celebration. And again, April is Autism Acceptance Month, and I definitely appreciate each and every one of you for supporting this whole process. So I hope to catch you again tomorrow night, and definitely hope that you are enjoying this series. Have a great night, guys.